the reasons why the Representative Omar should be removed from this committee, but I feel like all the reasons have not just yet been stated, which is why I rise to add for the record. We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to use that logic, well, then all those people should have just said sorry and we'd move on, right? But no, we don't do that. And let me tell you, I take a little bit of offense to what the hell is wrong with me. I'll tell you, there's nothing wrong with me. I took an oath to defend the Constitution, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Again, I'm not going to apologize for it.
The proceedings began with a somber reflection on the events of September 11th, 2001, noting how that tragedy reshaped the national consciousness and impacted the collective sense of security. One member highlighted the profound societal changes that followed, emphasizing that the nation had lost access to certain freedoms and assurances in the wake of the attacks. The opening remarks set the tone for the debate by linking historical context to contemporary responsibilities, underscoring the gravity of public service and accountability in Congress. This introduction framed the subsequent discussion around the role of elected officials in representing national values, establishing a foundation for the ensuing arguments regarding the conduct and suitability of Representative Ilhan Omar on critical committees. The statement bridged a historical reflection with immediate legislative implications, grounding the discourse in both memory and civic duty.
I've been in that committee room where the representative equates Israel and the United States to Hamas and the Taliban. Absolutely unacceptable for a member of that committee. I've also heard the representative equate that it is the United States' fault that there is turmoil in Venezuela. That is not because of the oppressive socialist and communism that has spread throughout Central and South America in Venezuela at the hands of the Maduro and Hugo Chavez regimes. That is unacceptable. And as a New York representative, to hear the representative belittle, to try to diminish.
The discussion then shifted to specific criticisms of Representative Ilhan Omar, focusing on remarks she had made in congressional committees regarding Israel, the United States, and foreign policy issues. Members recounted instances in which Omar allegedly equated the United States and Israel with groups such as Hamas and the Taliban, highlighting how these statements were viewed as fundamentally anti-American and damaging to diplomatic credibility. Furthermore, the debate touched on her remarks about Venezuela, arguing that her interpretation of political turmoil there ignored the impact of socialist and authoritarian regimes, instead placing undue blame on U.S. foreign policy.
I'm going to hold the Constitution, and it's very simple. We really shouldn't even have this debate. If you break the law and you follow due process, there are consequences to your actions, even if you say sorry. So we can try all of the diversion tactics that we would like. It doesn't change the fact.
The debate intensified as members drew a parallel between Omar's comments about Venezuela and her allegedly dismissive remarks regarding the September 11th attacks. By referencing her statement that some people did something, the speaker framed this as an example of rhetoric that minimizes the profound national trauma of 9/11. The argument extended to a broader point about consistency and accountability, emphasizing that holding one member responsible for such comments should not be seen as partisan but rather as an application of uniform ethical standards. Members underscored that similar remarks by colleagues from either party had also led to disciplinary action, reinforcing the notion that standards of conduct in Congress must be applied equitably. This segment underscored the principle that accountability in legislative bodies is critical to preserving trust in governance and maintaining the integrity of national representation.
The worst terrorist attack on United States soil on September 11, 2001, as some people did something, that is unacceptable as well. And I hold the same standard for this side of the aisle that I do the other, because when another colleague on my side said something about 9/11, I also voted to have her removed from the Education Committee because I thought that was inappropriate.
Following the detailed critique, members stressed the importance of institutional accountability and the integrity of congressional committees. The discussion highlighted that individuals holding radical or divisive views should not be placed in positions that directly influence U.S. foreign relations, as this could undermine diplomatic credibility and national security. The speaker emphasized yielding back the floor while making clear that the central issue was not political opposition but adherence to the responsibilities and standards inherent in public office. By framing the debate around principles of consistency, accountability, and national service, this portion of the transcript reinforced the expectation that elected officials must prioritize the country's interests above personal ideology, signaling to colleagues and the public that ethical governance is non-negotiable.
So I'm being consistent here, and I hope my colleagues will do the same to show that this is about consistency and accountability, because we should not have an individual with those views on the committee that is tasked with representing our country and our Congress to foreign nations. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from Michigan is recognized.
The conversation further elaborated on the role of law, constitutional duty, and due process in Congress. Members voiced their commitment to defending the Constitution and stressed that adherence to legal and ethical standards cannot be circumvented by apologies or political maneuvering. This segment highlighted the distinction between partisanship and principle, emphasizing that holding members accountable for their actions is a matter of constitutional responsibility rather than political vendetta. The speaker underscored the hypocrisy they perceived in colleagues who failed to enforce these standards consistently, illustrating the tension between ideological alignment and duty to the law. The emphasis on upholding accountability, regardless of party affiliation, conveyed a strong message about the responsibilities of legislative office and the expectation that public officials act with integrity, courage, and fidelity to the Constitution.
That someone broke the law and that someone should be held accountable. It is disappointing, Mr. Speaker, that their own party can't hold them accountable, that they have such hypocrisy. So with that, I yield 2 minutes to my friend from New York, Nicole Malliotakis.
Gentlelady is recognized for 2 minutes.
The formal recognition of members Nicole Malliotakis and Lisa Mlan, who were given the floor to present their perspectives. This moment served as a transition from general debate to specific articulation of accountability measures and principled argumentation against Omar. Recognition in Congress carries both procedural and symbolic weight, marking the official opportunity for these members to articulate their position in a high-profile legislative forum. By highlighting their voices in this context, the transcript captures the procedural structure of congressional debate while also setting the stage for a detailed presentation of arguments rooted in law, ethics, and the responsibilities of elected office. This segment bridged procedural recognition with a substantive critique that followed, reinforcing the importance of both decorum and content in legislative deliberation. In reflecting on the events that unfolded during this pivotal congressional session, it becomes clear that the proceedings were about far more than a single representative or an isolated moment of political discord. The discussions and debates, the detailed accounts of statements made, and the rigorous examination of accountability collectively represent the very essence of democratic responsibility. Throughout the session, members of Congress engaged in a careful balancing act, weighing freedom of expression against the obligations inherent in positions of public trust. They examined how individual rhetoric can influence not only the perception of the United States abroad, but also the confidence and trust of constituents at home. In this context, the deliberations served as a reminder that elected officials are custodians of both national values and public integrity, and their words and actions carry weight far beyond the walls of the chamber. Moreover, The session highlighted the importance of consistency in applying standards of accountability. By referencing past incidents and comparing responses across party lines, the members underscored that ethical conduct is not subject to political convenience, but is a universal requirement for those entrusted with legislative authority. This careful attention to precedent and principle reinforces the idea that the strength of a democratic system is measured not merely by the laws on the books, but by the rigor with which those laws and ethical expectations are applied. The proceedings also demonstrated the vital role of transparency and debate in a functioning democracy. Every comment, every objection, and every defense became part of a documented record, ensuring that the public could witness the decision-making process and understand the rationale behind consequential actions. In doing so, the session underscored that democracy thrives when discourse is open, accountable, and grounded in evidence and reasoned argument. Beyond the immediate outcomes, these debates serve as a broader reflection on civic responsibility. They illustrate the necessity for public servants to consider the long-term implications of their words and actions, recognizing that the trust placed in them by the electorate is both a privilege and a profound responsibility. The session further emphasizes that accountability is not about punishment for its own sake, but about maintaining the integrity of institutions that protect the freedoms and rights of all citizens. In this sense, the removal of an individual from a position of influence is symbolic of a larger commitment to the principles that sustain democratic governance. Finally, as observers reflect on this historic moment, it is evident that the session stands as a testament to the enduring values of civic courage, principled debate, and the pursuit of justice within the framework of representative government. It illustrates that the mechanisms of accountability, when applied thoughtfully and consistently, reinforce public trust and ensure that leadership remains aligned with the ideals of service, fairness, and national interest. In conclusion, this congressional session exemplifies the ongoing responsibility of lawmakers to uphold ethical standards, prioritize the collective well-being, and engage in discourse that strengthens, rather than diminishes, the democratic process. It is a reminder that the health of a republic depends not only on legislation but on the character and integrity of those who are elected to enact it, and that history will always remember those who act with courage, principle, and unwavering commitment to the people they serve.